Hi everyone, welcome back to the workshop. The workshop is almost finished. I plan to reveal the entire space next week, so stay tuned for that. In the last video, I shared a tutorial on how to make these countertops for under $60, and this video we're making a giant custom pegboard. Check out the tools and materials linked in the description below, and let's get to building this pegboard. For this pegboard project, I used one 4x8 sheet of sanded plywood, 1-inch wooden dowels for the pegs, and 1x2 pine boards to trim out the pegboard and to secure it to the wall. Once again, you can find the tools and materials linked below. I have 8-foot 1x2 boards that will trim out the entire pegboard, and in order for that to fit the length of the plywood, I had to cut the plywood down a few inches. After the plywood was cut down to size, I measured out an entire grid to find where the peg holes need to go. I decided to leave 4 inches around the edges, and then the rest I spaced out evenly at 5 inches. I used a pencil and drywall square to mark out the grid. Now it's time to drill the holes. For this, I bought a 1-inch Forstner bit and a drill guide to help drill each hole nice and straight. I clamped the board down to the table and then drilled 162 holes. This was definitely the most time-consuming step of the project, but it will all be worth it in the end. Every hole is drilled. I flipped the board over and removed any of the splintered wood on the backside. And on the front side, I sanded the pegboard up to 220 grit sandpaper. I also rolled up a piece of sandpaper to get in all the holes. In the workshop, I went with a whitewashed ceiling and countertop, so I'm going to stick with the same theme and whitewash the pegboard too. I used 1 part paint and 1 part water for this mixture. I brushed on the whitewash with a large brush and then wiped it off right away with a clean rag. I also took a tiny paintbrush to get in all the holes as well. Next step is polyurethane. I did 3 coats of this water-based satin polyurethane. I sanded in between each coat with 220 grit sandpaper. If you're using polyurethane, you may want to resand in all the peg holes because any drips may affect the pegs being able to fit. To secure the pegboard to the wall, I'm first securing some 1x2 strips to studs in the wall. I marked out all the studs first and secured these 1x2 strips with some long 3-inch screws. I made sure to install these 1x2 boards so that they don't sit behind any of the holes in the pegboard. Before securing the pegboard, I turned the power off to this outlet, removed the outlet cover, unscrewed the outlet, and angled it out so that the pegboard could fit right over it. I'll be using an outlet extender to extend the outlet past the pegboard later. I'm trimming out the entire pegboard with 1x2 boards. I'm installing the bottom board first so that I could get the pegboard in place, and then I'll secure the other 3 sides. I mitered the corners of the 1x2 trim and then secured it to the edge of the pegboard using wood glue and 1.5-inch brad nails. I overhung the trim a tiny bit, as you can see here, and left about 3/4 of an inch on the back side to account for the strips on the wall. With the bottom trim attached, I can now cut the outlet out. I measured and marked out the outlet on the pegboard and then used my jigsaw to cut it out. Before installing the pegboard, I pre-drilled holes where the 1x2 strips are. I measured each of the strips from the countertop, transferred that measurement, and then pre-drilled the holes. Now we're ready to install the pegboard. Devin helped me lift the pegboard in place. I made sure it was centered, and then I secured some small 1.5-inch trim head screws where I had already pre-drilled the holes. The power to this outlet is already turned off. I placed my outlet extender over the outlet and then used the long screws provided to secure the outlet. I found these cool wooden outlet covers at Home Depot. I think they complement the pegboard really well. Next, I measured the rest of the 1x2 trim. I mitered each of the corners of the trim and then secured it with wood glue and brad nails. I decided to also add a bit of trim to this back edge of the countertop. I used some wood filler to fill any of the holes from the trim head screws or brad nails. You can barely see the holes from the trim head screws once they're filled, and most of them will be covered with items hanging on the pegboard anyway. I gathered a bunch of items that I wanted to hang on the pegboard and started to lay things out where I wanted them. I used 1-inch dowels for the pegs. These came in 4-foot lengths. You may want to size down a tiny bit. These pegs were pretty tough to fit into the holes, but I cut the pegs to different lengths depending on what I was hanging. You can leave them all at the same length or cut them different. It's totally up to you. I cut my pegs at 4, 6, and 8 inches. After the dowels were cut down, I made sure to hand sand any of the rough edges. I spent some time hanging all of my items. I tried to keep things that I use often on the bottom of the board where it's easy to reach. I know I'll have more things to add later on, but that's what's great about this custom pegboard is that you can customize it any way you want. And there you have a giant custom pegboard. Be sure to check out the tools and materials linked in the description below. I'm just wrapping up the workshop project, so I'll be revealing the entire space soon. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the final reveal. Thank you guys so much for watching.